find the knowledge which was left behind from an advanced culture.
$1 تريليون ميزانية وزارة الدفاع. المسيرات اللي في سماء نيو جيرسي بحجم سيارة نقل كبيرة. الدرون وصل قرب البيت عندك يا أستاذة نادية ولا لسه؟ طائر الوروار بتاع فيروز فاكرينه؟ لو الحاجات دي طلعت جاية من بره الدنيا احنا عندنا مشكلة. هيجي لنا البيان رقم 1 إلى أهل الأرض: نحن نأتي في سلام. We are coming in peace. ماذا لم تسقطوا أيا منا؟ صمت.
لكن لا أحد يريد أن يتحدث عن
وفين الشفافية؟ على فكرة امبارح كده ابتدوا يلمحوا إن دي حاجات من حضارة المصريين. اسمنا موجود: Egypt, Egyptian history, Egyptian civilization. قال لك لا، ده شغل فراعنه، ده مش اي حد يعمله، ده المصري. ده احنا لو كنا كده ما كنا. المهم يعني
The austere building behind me once housed what was undoubtedly the world's largest and most feared intelligence agency. Why would the KGB be so interested in what many consider to be science fiction?
Coming up next, exclusive film footage of the most amazing discovery of the millennium.
I don't believe the soldiers realized the significance of what they were looking at. The first hard evidence of a humanoid extraterrestrial life form.
Film footage of what could be the discovery of the millennium. Learn the terrible secret
Papa!
before it's too late.
We have believed that the first human beings in space were Russian. Is it possible, though, that centuries earlier the first people to leave the Earth were ancient Egyptians? And did Soviet researchers learn this early in the 1960s? Recent evidence out of the former USSR indicates that indeed Russian agents...
ISIS, it was targeted at discovering Egyptian artifacts and knowledge that may have military applications. ISIS was one of the several covert research missions that KGB was conducting during that time.
Dr. Ivanovich chronicles the mission and its shocking discovery in his book, Project ISIS, the KGB's discovery of the Tomb of the Visitor. This exclusive footage has never before been seen outside the top secret facilities of the KGB. According to Ivanovich, what you are watching is a visual record of the most important discovery in the history of mankind.
There is no disputing the fact that a small group of Russian scientists, together with military experts on radioactivity and chemical warfare, discovered the tomb in Egypt in 1961. The record is clear on that point. But what was never disclosed was what they found inside the tomb. From the available evidence and highly placed sources, in the sarcophagus were the remains of an alien creature who died in Egypt about 10,000 years BC.
Fact 1. For over 5 decades, Western governments have been collecting information on UFOs in strict secrecy. Fact 2. So did their counterparts behind the Iron Curtain. Fact 3. Now that the Cold War is over, the truth is finally out. This Soviet Air Force footage was obtained by a group of Russian ufologists. It was declassified by the USSR's Ministry of Defense just before Boris Yeltsin took power. What we are looking at is a view from the cockpit camera of a MiG-23 Flogger, scrambled to intercept 2 unknown targets. What we see now is an apparent merging of the 2 targets. Here is the same shot slowed down. These are obviously not typical flight characteristics of NATO or any other conventional aircraft. The MiG lost visual contact with this object or objects, and there has never been any official identification. The next clip was shot from a MiG-25 Foxbat, and what we're about to see is actually an American F-16 Falcon about 200 meters away. What happens next is that a new object appears from behind the clouds. It was not identifiable. The new object suddenly descends and disappears into the clouds. Once again, here is the American plane at the same altitude as the MiG. And now here is the object as it appears behind the F-16. And here it emerges from behind the F-16, then goes down and enters the cloud bank. As with all accounts or potential evidence of UFO encounters, researchers attempt to authenticate and verify related facts as much as possible. In general, the more spectacular the report, the more important the verification.
I was intelligence officer for the Soviet military for over 30 years. My son is a pilot in the Russian Air Force now. I can say for certain that there were numerous occasions where Air Force and Navy fighter planes intercepted what we thought were NATO aircraft, only to find that they were not airplanes as we know them, and not belonging to any nation on Earth.
It's no secret we would send planes into their airspace. They would fly into our airspace. It's like a game, like a test, constantly trying to test the response of the other side. Only sometimes someone would get shot at. In this case, neither the Soviets nor the Americans seem to have any clue as to what this third object is. I'm telling you, even when you blow it up, it's impossible to identify. It appears to be about 4 or 5 meters across, moves with characteristics unlike any conventional plane.
Now, in this final piece of footage, we will once again be looking at a cockpit camera view, this time from a MiG-21. The camera plane and 3 others were scrambled to intercept an unknown craft flying at very high speed, which is visible here as a large, cylindrical-shaped object. And as the Russian planes close in, the UFO suddenly picks up speed and disappears. Here it is once again. You'll notice the cylinder seems to be traveling at about the same speed as the MiGs until about here. And then it seems to increase its speed, which, according to pilots, must have reached at least Mach 3 in about 10 seconds.
A lot of this footage was declassified after the Soviet military failed to identify the object seen here. This one shows an interception attempt by MiG pilots. There were many cylindrical object interceptions that were reported and investigated. We were interested in the high-speed potential of these objects. The size of this one is estimated to be about twice the size of a MiG-21. With technology available to us and the Americans, it should not be able to move as fast as it does.
Hey, this footage is still interesting because I don't think the Russians had any idea what they were dealing with here. Their fighters were at least as good as ours, and yet here is something that is completely beyond their capability to intercept. The acceleration rate of this thing is impossible for any aircraft that we know of.
There was one tragic incident I know of occurring in the early 1970s, in which MiG-21s tried to shoot down an unknown craft flying over Western Russian airspace, which failed to respond to Soviet pilots. The pilots used standard intercept procedure to expel foreign planes out of Soviet airspace. When the craft did not respond, the pilots were ordered to lock on missiles. At that point, both jets were destroyed by some weapon not known to Soviet military. Both pilots perished. There was an effort within the Air Force to make it look as if the fighter planes collided, but investigators I knew personally at the time said it was not collision. They were shot down by something.
In an international television news broadcast, former Canadian Minister of National Defense, Paul Hellyer, makes an astonishing statement. He claims to have knowledge that extraterrestrials are visiting Earth.
Why do you say that UFOs are as real as the airplanes flying over our heads?
Well, because I know that they are. And they've been visiting this planet for thousands of years. And there is what is called a federation of these people, and they have rules.
The interview sent shockwaves through the media. Viewers questioned why a high-level official would make such an announcement.
That gave me the dubious distinction of being the first person of cabinet rank in the G8 group of countries who ever said categorically, without reservation, UFOs are real, and you have to accept them as being real.
الأمم المتحدة كورت فالدهايم سكرتير عام الأمم المتحدة عمل اجتماع لكل علماء اليوفولوجي اللي هم الأطباق الطائرة، ومنهم جوردن كوبر اللي هو الأسترونوت، جاك فاليه على سبيل المثال، ألان هينيك. ألان هينيك ده اللي هو أستاذ الأستروفيزيكس اللي هو الطبيعة الفلكية. أجمعوا على أن السر الأعظم الذي يواجههم والمشكلة الكبرى التي تواجه اليونايتد نيشنز أو الأمم المتحدة هي الأطباق الطائرة بعد مشكلة فيتنام.
يا سلام.
الكلام ده سنة 79، والصورة بتاعت الأمم المتحدة موجودة، وده اللي خلى وزير الدفاع الكندي بعد ما خلص المدة بتاعته ساعة على التلفزيون، وأي حد يقدر يقول التقدم العلمي بتاع أمريكا في 50 سنة اللي فات نتيجة اتصالهم بكوكب آخر، حضارة كوكب آخر وعلوم كوكب آخر.
يا خبر أبيض.
في مقابل إن خدوا منهم وعد بعدم استخدام الأسلحة النووية لأنها تؤثر على الكوكب، وبالتالي هذا يؤثر على كوكبه. المهم كلام كتير. فدي دايرة المعارف البريطانية أي حد يقدر يرجع لها في الحادثتين، ودول بيعتبروا فيزيكال ايفيدنس. فيزيكال ايفيدنس يعني أدلة مادية.
فوليوم 18
صفحة 851 اللي هو في صورة بعد كده هون بقى لأرثر كلارك، ده خطير جدا العالم ده هون. ده أرثر كلارك صاحب كتاب بعد منه، ده الكتاب ده عندي اسمه ميستيريوس وورلد، كتاب بقى بتاعه اللي هو عالم مليء بالأسرار يعني. ايوه هات لي الكتاب اللي بعده أرثر كلارك، ده الكتاب بتاعه مكتوب عليه أرثر كلارك من فوق، بيذكر فيه بالتفصيل حادثة إيران التي حدثت في فبراير سنة 79. آلاف الإيرانيين أو ملايين الإيرانيين شافوها الساعة 11 صباح.
A computer projection was produced of the mummy as it originally lay in the sarcophagus. From the date scientists claimed they could ascertain the physiology of the individual, reconstruction of the facial features commenced.
Through the forensic reconstruction, they were able to replicate the face of a humanoid found in the tomb.
Characteristics include a large cranium, unusually large eyes, small chin, mouth, small, visible, signs of teeth, positive.
Paths of the stars, they all intersected. And X marked a star in the constellation of Orion, a star very much like our sun.
At project labs in Moscow, the facial reconstruction neared completion.
I know this sounds unbelievable. I wouldn't believe it myself if I hadn't been there. But the reconstruction, the mummy, it didn't appear to be human. Maybe the legend is true. Maybe we found an extraterrestrial in that tomb.
Coming up next.
The conclusion was inescapable. The aliens who came to our planets in 11 millennium BC